Today, a man named Mark Hale will quietly walk away from one of the cleanest bank heists ever engineered. He didn't point a gun. He didn't wear a mask. He didn't hack a single computer. He walked in through the staff entrance, did his job, and left with the contents of 14 safety deposit boxes. No broken doors, no alarms, no footage of him anywhere near the vault at the crucial moment. The police opened a case, the bank hired experts. Everyone agreed something impossible had just happened, yet no one could prove who did it. The only clue? A 2-minute, 41-second blackout in the most secure floor of the building. This is the story of a man who didn't just rob a bank. He rewired the assumptions the bank was built on.
Before we dive into how he did it, hit like and subscribe.
August, a mid-sized European city. Northbridge Trust stands in the business district. Glass facade, steel frame, polished marble lobby. The bank markets itself as a modern fortress. 2 separate power feeds from the grid, diesel generators on the roof, battery backups in the basement, smart cameras covering every corridor, a vault door that weighs as much as a truck. On paper, it's not just secure, it's over-secure. But there's something every engineer knows and every client forgets. Buildings aren't magical. They're just a giant list of decisions someone made under deadline. And when you rush, you take shortcuts. Somewhere deep in the technical drawings of Northbridge Trust, someone made a shortcut that would later become a weapon.
Enter Mark Hale, 42 years old, maintenance contractor, gray uniform, toolbox. If you saw him in the lobby, your brain would label him in half a second. Staff. You wouldn't ask what he did, how long he's worked there, or how much he understands. You would just hold the door and forget his face before it closes. That's his power. He lives in the background. What the bank never advertised was that 10 years before, Mark wasn't just tightening screws. He designed building systems, power distribution, backup switchovers, integration between alarms, cameras, doors. He'd sat in conference rooms telling clients what they should do, then watched them choose cheaper options instead. When corporate restructuring pushed him out, he slid into contract work. Less prestige, smaller paycheck, but far better access. He began to see buildings from the inside, not on diagrams, not as theory, as reality. And at some point, quietly, he stopped working just for buildings and started thinking about how to work against them.
One stormy night, Northbridge's lights flicker. The grid outside struggles. Voltage drops. In the basement, Mark stands in front of the automatic transfer switch, the device that decides what happens when the city power fails. The meters dip. The switch decides, we can't trust the grid right now. It moves the entire building onto generator power. For a brief moment, there's darkness. Basement lights drop to 0. Emergency lights hesitate, then blink on in a dim red haze. Upstairs, a security guard sees basement cameras go black, then come back a few seconds later. He doesn't panic. He's seen glitches before. He shrugs, glances at a warning message, and goes back to his phone. For him, it's nothing. For Mark, it's everything. He checks his watch, counts the seconds between the cut and the recovery, writes it down later. Grid to generator, 2.7 seconds. Cameras offline, 2.4 seconds. Most people see an annoyance. He sees a timeout. The building just showed him how long it's willing to be blind without calling for help.
Over the next weeks, Mark becomes the bank's unofficial cartographer. But he isn't mapping walls, he's mapping veins. On every floor, he counts steps between panels and doors. He opens electrical cabinets to check them and quietly photographs cable tags with his phone. He studies which breaker feeds which corridor. He traces how current moves from one level to another. He learns small details that don't look important to anyone else. This hallway camera shares a circuit with that light. These basement lamps are on the same line as a door magnet. This reader fails locked. That one fails open. At the same time, he watches behavior. He times guards' cigarette breaks, sees how long an alarm banner can blink on a screen before anyone reacts. Not the official reaction time, the real one. He observes cleaners pushing carts, walking their route like clockwork. Whoever designed the cleaning schedule didn't think of security. They thought of convenience. There are windows of time where entire sections of the building see no human footsteps at all. Eventually, everything points him back to one place. The line that powers the basement cameras, the basement lighting, and the magnetic locks on the vault. All on one circuit. One decision made years ago by someone staring at a blueprint and a budget. If that line fails, the cameras go blind, the corridor goes dark, and the vault's magnets let go. Northbridge Trust calls this redundant power. Mark calls it a single point of failure.
It's one thing to know the theory. It's another to touch the wire. The front of the vault is sacred. Cameras, keypads, strict rules, 2 employees present at all times during the day. Mark doesn't bother trying to get cute with that side. He goes for the back. Behind the vault, there's a room nobody thinks about unless something breaks. Vault mechanical/environmental. It's where the air conditioning keeps the temperature stable and where thick armored cables bring power to the lock systems. To reach it, he doesn't need to lie. He just needs a minor warning. He mentions a small temperature drift on the vault's climate system to an overworked bank engineer. Says it's probably nothing, but if it continues, it could damage backup tapes or sensitive media stored near the vault. Want me to run some tests Sunday night? Free log entries. Free compliance points. Approved. Sunday night, the bank is almost empty. Mark swipes into the basement, walks through dull concrete corridors, and steps into the mechanical room behind the vault. No cameras inside, just ductwork, compressors, and a wall where the back of the vault meets bundles of steel-armored cable. He opens a junction box. Everything he suspected is confirmed. Labels match the codes he's been collecting. The vault's magnets, the status sensors, the power feed they depend on, it's all there, physically real, in his hands. He writes down every identifier, closes the box, finishes his temperature test. The bank logs a successful maintenance procedure. Mark logs something else, proof that the flaw he's been hunting is exploitable.
Back in his apartment, Northbridge's problems become hardware on his kitchen table. No laptops, no hacking tools, just industrial components, clamps, insulated wire, a digital timer, protection fuses. He's not trying to break into code. He's trying to imitate reality. The device he designs doesn't scream crime. It looks like something a technician would use to simulate a fault during testing. Clip it onto a line, trigger it, watch the system's response. Except his version has one job: trip the specific circuit feeding the vault magnets, cameras, and basement lights. Keep it down for a very precise interval, then restore it as if nothing happened. Not 10 minutes, not 30 seconds. Exactly 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Long enough for a man who knows the layout to walk from the electrical room to the vault area, change what the vault thinks happened, remove what he wants, and get back before the building's eyes open again. He tests the timer on simple loads: a lamp, a fan, a strip of LEDs. They die and revive on schedule. The display hits the same number over and over. At this point, the heist isn't a fantasy anymore. It exists, in his hands, in metal and plastic.
Then the email. Internal memo. Upcoming security improvements. New circuits. Cleaner separation between power feeds. The vault and CCTV will soon be placed on independent backup lines. From the bank's perspective, this is a delayed but responsible move. From Mark's perspective, it's a problem. If he waits until after the upgrade, the vulnerability disappears. The vault magnets might still fail if something goes wrong, but the cameras won't go blind at the same time. His perfect blackout window collapses. So now there are only two choices left: walk away or move before the electricians do. He picks the night before the scheduled work, the last night the bank will exist in its current flawed configuration. On the maintenance calendar, his name sits there innocently, approved to perform electrical tests on the same circuit that will be modified tomorrow. If everything goes right, by the time anyone fully understands what happened, the physical wiring that made his plan possible will no longer exist.
Holiday weekend. The city outside is quiet. Inside Northbridge, most floors are dark. One security guard in the control room, a small cleaning crew, and one maintenance contractor with an active work order. At 1:47 a.m., Mark enters through the service door. His badge beeps green. The system records his presence. Maintenance, electrical test, panel B7. Nothing unusual. He rides the service elevator down, toolbox in hand. No one shares the elevator with him. In the electrical room, he opens the panel, feeding the critical line, and attaches his device. The clamp bites down on the cable that ties together cameras, lights, and vault magnets. On the small screen, the countdown presets wait like a coiled spring. He presses start. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, the circuit trips. In the security room, several cameras go dark at once. A warning message pops up. The guard leans forward, frowns, then relaxes as the system automatically marks it as a transient. He's seen this. Power burps in old buildings. It always comes back. He doesn't know this time it's planned. In the basement, fluorescent lights die. Red emergency lights hum on with a sluggish glow. Mark steps into the red wash and walks. No rushing, no running. He knows exactly how long he has. Mechanical room first. He opens the junction box behind the vault, inserts a tiny bridge that will fool the vault system when power returns. To the software, it will look like the correct sequence of signals during a power event. Shut down, authorized open, authorized close. Then to the vault front. The camera above the door is dead. The magnets have no power holding the bolts fully engaged. The manual wheel is heavy, but he's tested his strength against similar mechanisms before. He rotates it enough to release the latches. The vault door, massive and intimidating in the daytime, becomes just another hinged object in the dark. Inside, rows of safety deposit boxes line the walls. He doesn't pick randomly. He goes for boxes he's watched over months, rarely accessed, escorted by private couriers, tied to clients who value discretion more than noise. He drills just enough to open. No messy destruction, no time-wasting stubbornness. Canvas bags fill with cash bundles and thin cases that likely hold bearer bonds. Documents of value that are worth more than jewelry and harder to trace. Back in the electrical room, the device's timer is running down. Seconds evaporate. When his mental clock hits the threshold, he stops. He doesn't clean up like a perfectionist. He closes what he can, pulls the door nearly shut, and retraces his path. Mechanical room, bridge removed, cover back on. Electrical room, clamp off, panel closed. The timer hits 0. Power to the circuit returns. Upstairs, the basement cameras wink back on. The guard sees the feeds restore. Empty corridors, closed vault. Just in time. On the building's logs, it looks like this. Brief electrical fault, auto recovery, no alarms triggered. On reality's log, it's very different. Somewhere on that floor, 14 boxes are no longer holding what they were last night.
Morning. A client opens his box. Empty. Another complains. Then another. Soon the vault level is sealed. Managers whisper in hallways. Phones ring non-stop. When the head of security walks into the vault area and sees the pattern, Several boxes disturbed. High-value clients furious. He knows this isn't a single mistake. It's a controlled event. The investigation spins up fast. Logs are pulled. They see the blackout. Around the same time the vault was accessed. They check camera footage. They get nothing. The only visible disruption is the outage itself. No intruders, no strange faces. They list everyone in the building that night. Morning guard, cleaning staff, maintenance contractor Mark Hale. A familiar name. He's been around for months. Tidy reports, zero complaints. Internal investigator Emma Vogel is assigned. She's not interested in dramatic theories. She's interested in timelines. Blackout starts, blackout ends. Somewhere in between, the vault gets opened. But the front-side access logs show no valid code entry, no second employee present, no door prop alarm. Everything says the vault stayed shut. And yet, physically, it clearly didn't.
In most modern heist stories, everyone's first suspicion is the same. Did someone hack us? Cyber experts get called. They dig through network logs, look for strange IP addresses, malware, unauthorized remote connections. At Northbridge, they find nothing. No external attack, no altered video files, no tampering with access control software. The system recorded what actually happened electrically: a fault on a specific circuit, an automatic retry, and a restoration. Exactly the kind of signature you'd see with aging hardware or minor grid issues. Emma shifts her focus. If it wasn't a hacker on the internet, it had to be someone on the floor. She looks at the maintenance ticket. Mark was scheduled to work specifically on the panel that experienced the fault. He logged being there. He logged seeing the event. His notes line up perfectly with the bank's own data. By itself, that isn't proof. Contractors work on electrical issues all the time. When something fails, it's usually near the person fixing it. Still, the overlap is too uncomfortable to ignore. He's interviewed.
The system logic was flawed in the primary relay, causing a cascading failure due to an unforeseen voltage surge.
His background check shows no priors, no big debts, nothing screaming desperate. To push harder without solid evidence would expose the bank to legal risk if they're wrong. So the official conclusion becomes a foggy compromise. An unknown party exploited a rare combination of power issues and timing. The bank compensates a limited set of clients quietly and fast-tracks the upgrade that splits vault power and CCTV onto separate feeds. By the time the wiring is changed, the exact physical configuration that allowed the heist no longer exists. Reconstructing what happened becomes almost theoretical. Mark's contract quietly ends months later. No charges, no headlines, just a non-renewal email.
Mark doesn't buy a mansion. He doesn't flaunt cars on social media. He doesn't suddenly upgrade his lifestyle in a way that would trigger attention. He disperses, moves cities, takes smaller jobs, keeps a low profile. For him, the money was part of the equation, but not the whole story. What he really stole wasn't just cash and bonds. He stole certainty. Northbridge Trust believed in its fortress. Its clients believed in shiny brochures and words like redundancy and fail-safe. They assumed that if anything went wrong, the system would scream loud enough for someone to fix it. Mark proved something ugly. You don't always need to fight the system. You can just understand it better than the people who paid for it.
Years later, a new building hums in another country. This time, a data center, storing the life of a dozen banks instead of money in metal boxes. Again, generators on the roof, automatic transfer switches, redundant lines, brochures full of diagrams and confident phrases. And again, a contractor's name appears on a temporary badge. Toolbox, gray uniform, quiet footsteps. He walks through chilled aisles of servers, listening to fans spin.
He watches how long it takes for alarms to be acknowledged. He opens panels and looks at how temporary wiring fixes became permanent. He knows that as technology gets smarter, organizations get more confident. And confidence in the wrong hands is just another vulnerability. So the next time you see a huge building with glowing security logos and
Threat
comforting
detected.
buzzwords, remember this. Sometimes the most dangerous person inside isn't the masked robber on camera or the hacker on the other side of the world. It's the quiet one in the gray uniform who knows exactly when to turn the lights off.